Her royal wings were beyond repair until a human vet gave her hope again. The Avarian Medical Council had spoken their final verdict with a cold efficiency of executioners. Lady Charlotte's wings, once the pride of the royal family and the envy of every maiden across the 7 sky cities, were beyond salvation. The crystalline membranes had shattered in the crash, leaving jagged fragments embedded in muscle and bone. 3 of the Empire's finest physicians had examined her, and all 3 had recommended the same irreversible procedure: complete amputation. It is the only way to prevent further deterioration, Your Highness, Chief Physician Zarek had said, his feathered crest drooping with what might have been genuine sympathy. The damaged tissue is already beginning to necrotize. Within a month, the infection will spread to your vital organs. Charlotte had nodded silently, her violet eyes fixed on some distant point beyond the medical chamber's walls. She had always known the risks of racing through the Crimson Canyons. The ancient stone formations were treacherous, even for the most experienced flyers, and she had been showing off, pushing her limits, testing the boundaries of what her body could endure. Now she would pay the price that every grounded Avarian dreaded: a life spent crawling across the earth, like the lesser species, unable to touch the clouds that had once been her domain. Thought her father, King Theron, had exhausted every option within their empire. He had summoned specialists from the distant colonies, offered fortunes to anyone who claimed they could help. But Avarian medicine, for all its sophistication in matters of flight and aerial combat, had never truly mastered the art of wing reconstruction. Why would they? Wings did not fail. They endured for centuries, healing from minor tears and breaks as naturally as breathing. Complete structural collapse was so rare that no one had bothered to study it until a human merchant named Daniel arrived at the palace gates. He had come to the capital city of Etherspire on a trade mission, representing some obscure Earth corporation interested in establishing commercial routes through Avarian space. But when word of Charlotte's condition reached him through the diplomatic channels, he had done something unexpected. He had requested an audience with the king and claimed that he might be able to help. A human, Zarak had scoffed when informed of the request. What could one of those primitive creatures possibly know about Avarian physiology? They don't even have wings. But King Theron was desperate, and desperation made even the proudest ruler willing to grasp at impossible hopes. Daniel was younger than Charlotte had expected, perhaps in his early 30s by human reckoning. He carried himself with a quiet confidence that seemed at odds with his species' reputation for bumbling through the galaxy. His brown hair was slightly disheveled, and his clothes were practical rather than formal, the attire of someone more comfortable in a laboratory than a throne room. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing with an awkwardness that made several courtiers hide smiles behind their wings. "I'm Dr. Daniel Wright, veterinary surgeon from Earth. I understand that Lady Charlotte's wings have been deemed irreparable, and you believe you can succeed where our finest physicians have failed?" the king asked, his tone hovering between hope and skepticism. "I don't know," Daniel admitted, and his honesty caught everyone off guard. "But I'd like to examine her. On Earth, I specialize in treating injured birds creatures with wing structures not entirely dissimilar to Avarian anatomy. I've developed some experimental techniques that might apply here." Charlotte spoke for the first time in days. "You compare me to animals." Daniel met her gaze without flinching. "I compare your wings to miracles of biological engineering that I've spent my entire career trying to understand and preserve. If that offends you, Your Highness, then I apologize. But I've seen birds with shattered wings fly again. I've seen creatures that every expert said would never recover take to the skies. Your physicians are right that traditional Avarian medicine can't help you. But maybe, just maybe, human stubbornness can." Something in his words, or perhaps in the absolute certainty behind them, made Charlotte agree. The surgery took 14 hours. Daniel worked with a precision that stunned the Avarian medical team observing him. He used techniques that seemed barbaric at first: metal pins and synthetic grafts, microscopic sutures, and chemical compounds that no Avarian had ever seen. He removed the shattered fragments of crystalline membrane and replaced them with a flexible polymer he had synthesized from materials found in both human and Avarian medical supplies. "The key," he explained as he worked, his hand steady despite his exhaustion, "is that humans learned medicine by treating species without natural regenerative abilities. We had to become creative. We had to find ways to trick the body into healing what it thought was beyond repair." He restructured the damaged muscle tissues, using stem cell injections to promote growth in areas that had begun to atrophy. He realigned the wing bones with a framework of biocompatible titanium that would provide support while the natural healing process took hold. And finally, he grafted a thin layer of tissue over the polymer membranes tissue that he promised would eventually integrate with Charlotte's own cellular structure. It won't be like it was, he told her when she finally woke from the anesthesia 3 days later. The wings will be stronger in some ways, more fragile in others. You'll need months of physical therapy, and there's a significant chance that it won't work at all. But 6 months later, Charlotte stood at the edge of the palace's highest tower, her wings fully extended for the first time since the accident. They were different now. The membranes had a faint iridescent sheen that caught the light in strange ways, and she could feel the subtle presence of Daniel's synthetic framework supporting her. Natural structure. Daniel stood beside her, his expression carefully neutral. Remember what I said. Start slow. Don't push yourself. Charlotte looked at him, this strange human who had given her back something she thought she'd lost forever. Then she smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face, and stepped off the edge. For one heart-stopping moment, she fell. Then her wings caught the air, and she soared up below. Daniel watched her climb higher and higher into the clouds, and allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. The Avarian physicians could keep their certainties and their limitations. Humans had learned long ago that impossible was just another word for not yet achieved. And sometimes, all it took was someone stubborn enough to try.